of independent record label things I didn't turn out very, very well. So anyway, she said, "Listen, would you consider giving this one a try?" I said, "Well, not really." And I said the reason why is because I just don't want to. I don't want to be involved in a record label about the time we start seeing the light of day. Somebody decides that, we're going to change streams and we're not going to do what we said we was going to do. And I said, so I just really don't want to do that. She said, "I'm telling you, this label isn't like that." I said, "Well, I'm not being ugly, but I've heard that before too." She said, "Would you come and sit down and talk?" I said, "No." So she said, "Would you please come and sit?" So a couple of weeks later, she called me again. I said, "Well, darling, it's only because I'm a buddy of yours. The only reason in the world why I'm going to come do that." And then before you know it, the deal was kind of struck and kind of done. And so therefore, the really, really neat thing about it is I had, like I'm saying, pretty much the album done to the point that when she says, "Do you have anything to play?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. A copy of what you got, So it really made it kind of neat to be able to, to send some stuff and hear how
it actually went fast. I mean, not the process. You were obviously writing songs, getting prepared, waiting for that perfect medium that you were looking for to.
Well, certainly looking for songs. I always try to do the best I can to look for songs. And while we're out on the road, people will give me songs. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'll take the aggravation a lot of times to listen to them. And I'm kind of like Conway Twitty was about stuff like that. I'm afraid I'd be the one that would miss the big one just because I didn't want to hear it, because the other one I heard was terrible. Mm-hmm. Because not every song, listen, great songwriters write terrible songs. They're just smart enough not to play them for people.
That's true.
Anyway, this is a pretty one right now. I'm going to do this. This is on the album, and anyway, a lot of the stuff that's going on. My daddy died in August, and anyway, he had brain cancer, and there the last few months of his existence, he'd kind of drift on you a little bit. Anyway, a really good buddy of mine, Mike Curtis, had written a song, "Way Yonder Back," and to tell you the truth, I'd plumb forgot about it. And then after my daddy had passed away, he sent it to me, and I'd sung the demo for him. And to tell you the truth, I kind of thought I was one of the writers. It had been so long. But anyway, and then when he told me, said, "No," I said, I wrote that by myself. I said, "Well, all right then." Looking through the nursery glass, reality came clearer. It was like, see, okay, let me get it. Looking through the nursery glass, reality came clearer. He said it was just like looking in a mirror. The first time he laid eyes on me, lying in that baby bed, he said if I could have talked, it's like I would have said, "Now who are you? I don't believe I've met you, but I'm glad that you're here. Heaven must have sent you. Now won't you stay with me a while? I've never needed someone so. Now who are you? I'd really like to know." By the time I turned 16, where he and I barely got along, he tried to teach me right, but I always told him he was wrong. And after all I put him through, he kept my soul from danger. Sometimes it's like he was my dad, and yet a total stranger. Now who are you? I don't believe I've met you, but I'm glad you know heaven must have sent you. Won't you stay with me a while? I've never needed someone so. Now who are you? I'd really like to know. Time has a way of changing things that it won't give us back. Sometimes it'll bring us to our knees, and we'll have to face the facts. I saw him again today, like so many times before, and I cut his hair, and I watched the gray fall to the floor. His big blue eyes just stared at me as he crossed me in the gates, and it really brought me to my knees when I heard my daddy say, now who are you? I don't believe I've met you, but I'm glad that you're here. You know heaven must have sent you. Oh, won't you stay with me a while? I've never needed someone so. Now who are you? Oh, I'd really like to know. Now who are you? I'd really like to know.
What a beautiful song.
Well, it's a pretty song,
Man.
That'd make you take back stuff you ain't stolen.
Woo. Man, that is beautiful.
Yeah, I tell you, old
And
Mike
Mike
Curtis.
Curtis wrote that.
Yeah, he sure
And
did.
he wrote Next to You, Next to Me with y'all, for y'all, didn't he?
No, in
What
fact,
did he write for y'all?
well, you know, he and I have wrote a bunch of songs together. We did the Bill Gates thing, Get Up in Jesus' Name, and Where the Timbers Cross, and the Peace of Loving You, and you know, several of the some. Well, we've been fortunate enough to write some Southern gospel tunes that, you know, kind of done really well. But you know,
I'm getting him confused with another writer, Mike Curtis. But I know, is it the Mike
Yeah,
Curtis
no,
from Russell Shoulder?
No, yeah, but there's another Mike Curtis that lives in over Mississippi. I think he
Okay.
lives in Corinth, and in fact, he said he got his ASCAP statement one time and knew good and well they got the wrong one.
Well, that's what it is. But
no, you know, Robert Ellis Orr and Curtis Wright had written Next to You, Next to Me.
okay, all right, Curtis Wright. That's where I got him
Right.
mixed
Yeah.
up. Okay. Well, how many? Just tell me. Going back. Let's go back a few years. And is it 14 number ones?
No, you know, actually there was
16?
11. We had 11.
11 number ones.
Yeah, had 11 number one records, but you know, and then that was through the Billboard charts. You know, that there was some R&Rs, I think, that may have went. Maybe we had 12. And then Cashbox Magazine and some of the other ones that you do is, you know, it came so far up the charts, they benefit you with a number one record. But as far as radio and records, I'm pretty sure, along with Billboard, it was just 11.
Now, independently, you wound up with a Grammy somewhere down the road, didn't you? There's a Grammy there. In the, Butterfly Kisses, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. In fact, the version that got the Grammy award was given to Bob Carlisle, you know, because of, you know, him being the writer. But the version was the country version.
Right. Beautiful song. Now, did you do that with? Was that a solo or was?
No, yeah, it's with my brother Tim.
That's what I thought. The Raybon Brothers. I remember that album.